something happened to me. And to this day I can't understand it. My name doesn't matter. What matters is what I saw, what I still see. Every night, when I close my eyes, I hear the sound of those engines, and I know they are coming back. I work, or rather, I used to work, as an air traffic controller at Dulles International Airport in Virginia. The night shift, from 11 at night to 6 in the morning, 5 nights a week. Always alone in the main tower during those hours. The smaller team stays on the ground floor, monitoring secondary systems. I'm up there, just me, the screens, and the silence. It's a lonely job, but I preferred it that way. After the divorce, the solitude seemed more honest. No surprises, no disappointments, just protocols, checklists, and the bluish light of the monitors reflecting on the dark glass of the booth. The routine was always the same. I'd arrive at 10:45 p.m., climb the 3 flights of stairs to the tower, unlock the door with my access card, and settle into the worn leather swivel chair. The coffee was already ready, always cold, always bitter. I drank it anyway. The screens flickered softly. Green radars traced hypnotic circles. The constant hum of the equipment was like mechanical breathing. I liked it. It was predictable, safe. Dulles isn't a small airport, but in the early morning hours, between 2 and 5, almost nothing happens. Maybe 2 or 3 cargo flights, 1 or 2 delayed international flights. The rest is silence. Empty runways stretching out under orange lights. Occasional fog creeping across the tarmac. I controlled, recorded, and released everything automatically. My fingers knew every key, every command. My voice on the radio was firm, technical, without emotion, exactly as it should be. It was a Tuesday, early November. The night was cold and damp. Dense fog covered the runways. I was finishing recording the landing of a cargo plane coming from Memphis when I noticed something strange on the main screen. A new record had appeared for TW492. Status: approaching. Estimated time: 3H47. Origin: not specified. Destination: Dulles International. I frowned. No flights were scheduled for that time. I checked the radar. Nothing. Clear sky on the approach panel. I consulted the coordination system. No tower had sent a traffic transfer. I tried to access the flight details. The system loaded for a few seconds, then displayed a blank screen. No flight plan, no takeoff record, no aircraft identified. An error in the database. It had to be. I right-clicked to delete the entry. The option was there. End flight. I clicked. The screen flickered. The recording disappeared for a second. Then he returned. For TW492. Status: approaching. Awaiting authorization. I tried again. Same thing. The flight refused to disappear. I manually entered the forced cancellation code. I pressed enter. The screen froze. And then, very slowly, a line of text appeared at the bottom of the monitor. Please wait. Crew requests your patience. My stomach clenched. I looked around. The tower was empty. Just me and the hum of the equipment. Through the windows, the runways stretched out deserted, shrouded in fog. I stared at that message for a long minute. Then I took a deep breath and closed the program. It must be a bug in the system. Some old code, poorly deleted. Maybe a ghost maintenance flight. I finished my shift without looking at that screen again. But when I left the tower at 6 in the morning, the cold I felt wasn't just outside. The following night, he was there again. I arrived at the tower at 10:45 p.m. as usual. I went up the stairs, unlocked the door, and sat down. Cold coffee in hand, screens flashing, everything normal. Until 3:47 a.m. The record appeared at exactly the same time, as if it were scheduled, as if it were waiting for TW492. Status: approaching. Estimated time: 3:47 a.m. I felt my heart race. I checked the radar immediately. Nothing. Empty sky. No active transponders. No radio communication. But the system insisted that an aircraft was approaching. I tried deleting it again. Same response. Please wait. Crew requests your patience. This time, I didn't close the program. I stayed there, watching. The countdown continued. 3 minutes. 2 minutes. 1 minute. 03H47. The record has changed. Status. Awaiting gate release. My breathing quickened. I looked out the window. The runways were completely empty. There wasn't a single aircraft. Nothing landed. Nothing moved, but the system recorded a landing. I sat there, motionless, while the flight remained on the screen for another 15 minutes. Then, without any action on my part, the recording disappeared on its own, as if it had never existed. The following night, he was there again. I arrived at the tower at 10:45 p.m., as usual. I went up the stairs, unlocked the door, and sat down, cold coffee in hand. Screens flashing. Everything normal, until 3:47 a.m. The record appeared at exactly the same time, as if it were scheduled, as if it were waiting for TW4912. Status: approaching. Estimated time: 3:47 a.m. I felt my heart race. I checked the radar immediately. Nothing. Empty sky. No active transponders. No radio communication. But the system insisted that an aircraft was approaching. I tried deleting it again. Same response. Please wait. Crew requests your patience. This time, I didn't close the program. I stayed there, watching. The countdown continued. 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 03H47. The record has changed. Status: awaiting gate release. My breathing quickened. I looked out the window. The runways were completely empty. There wasn't a single aircraft. Nothing landed. Nothing moved. But the system recorded a landing. I sat there, motionless, while the flight remained on the screen for another 15 minutes. Then, without any action on my part, the recording disappeared on its own, as if it had never existed. I tried to convince myself it was a technical problem. The next morning, before leaving, I left a note for the IT team. System registering ghost flight TW4912 at 0347. Please verify. I returned on Thursday night hoping the problem would be resolved. It wasn't. This time, I decided to investigate. I accessed the system history, searching for old records of flight TW4912. Nothing. I searched the FAA's general database. Nothing. It was as if that flight existed only for me. Only during my shift. Only at that exact time. I called Martin, one of the controllers on the afternoon shift. I asked if he had seen anything strange in the records. Strange, isn't it? He asked, his mouth full of sandwich. Flights that appear but have no flight plan. Records without origin. He laughed. Dude, you need more sleep. The graveyard shift is making you paranoid. I hung up without answering. On Friday, something changed. The flight showed up at the usual time, but this time, when I tried to access the details, the system responded. A list appeared on the screen. Passengers on board, 224. My blood ran cold. I clicked on the file. The list loaded slowly, name by name. Robert Chen, seat 12A. Angela Lawson, seat 15C. David Kowalski, seat 8B. Emma Reeves, seat 22F. It continued. Dozens of names, addresses, passport numbers. Something about those names bothered me. They seemed too real, too detailed for a system error. I wrote down a few names, and when my shift ended, I went straight home and opened my laptop. I searched for the first name, Robert Chen, TW492. The result made me recoil in my chair, a news article from 2014. TW4912 flight disappears over the Atlantic, 224 passengers and crew presumed dead. My hands were shaking as I clicked the link. The story was detailed. The flight had departed from London bound for Dulles. It lost contact with air traffic control over the ocean. It never arrived. It was never found. No wreckage. No sign of distress. It just disappeared. I researched the other names on the list. Everyone was there. Everyone's on the manifest for the missed flight. They're all dead. I didn't go back to work on Saturday. I called in sick. It wasn't a lie. I spent the whole day trying to figure out what was going on. A flight that disappeared 11 years ago was showing up in my systems, with the complete list of deceased passengers, always at the same time. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was an automated tribute. Some programmer put that in the system as a memorial. But then, why was I the only one who saw it? Why did the system ask for patience? Why did it say that the crew was waiting? Sunday night, I went back. I don't know why. Maybe because I needed to know. Maybe because, deep down, I already knew that something very wrong was happening. And this time, they didn't just show up. They tried to talk to me. 03H47. The flight appeared as usual. But this time, something was different. The main screen flashed 3 times. Then a new window opened on its own, a direct communication form that I had never seen before. In the sender field, it was written TBU 4912 Cockpit. My throat went dry, and then, letter by letter, a message began to appear. Dulles Tower, this is Captain Stevens. I request immediate clearance to land. We have been waiting for a long time. My fingers froze on the keyboard. This couldn't be real. It couldn't. I forced myself to reply. I typed with trembling hands. Aircraft identification. Please confirm current position. The answer came instantly. TW 492, Boeing 777. We have just crossed the Atlantic. Passengers are tired. Please clear the gate. I looked at the radar. Nothing. Completely empty sky. I typed it again. There is no aircraft on the radar. Repeat your position. Silence for a few seconds. Then, we're here. We've always been here. Please, let us down. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. I stood up from my chair and went to the window. I pressed my face against the cold glass, searching for any sign of movement outside. Nothing, just fog. Empty lanes. Orange lights flashing in the usual mechanical rhythm. I went back to the screen. The message was still there, pulsing gently. I tried to close the window. I couldn't. I tried to shut down the system. The button wasn't responding. Then a new message appeared. We can see you, tower. We can see through the windows. My blood ran cold. I turned slowly, looking at the windows behind me. Only darkness and fog on the other side. But I felt something. A presence. As if there were eyes fixed on me. Invisible. Patient. I ran back to the terminal and frantically typed, "Who are you? What do you want?" The answer took a while to come. And when it finally did, my stomach churned. "We want to disembark. We've been stuck here since 2014. You're the only one who can see us. The only one who can set us free." My mind went into panic. I looked at the passenger list still open on the other screen. 224 names. 224 dead. "You are dead," I typed. The flight crashed. "You're not really here." Silence. And then, something happened that made me recoil from my chair. The walkie-talkie next to me, which was switched off, started to crackle. Static. Then, a voice, weak, distorted, but human. "Tower. Dulles. Please. We're tired." It wasn't one voice. It was several, overlapping. Men, women, children, all whispering at the same time. "Let us out." My breath hitched. I grabbed the radio and threw it on the floor. It kept crackling, even without power. I ran to the door. I tried to open it. Locked. I pulled hard. Nothing. I swiped my access card on the reader. The red light flashed. Access denied. "No, no, no," I murmured, knocking on the door. The lights on the tower began to flicker. Quickly, then slowly. Then they went out completely. I was left in the dark, with only the bluish light from the screens illuminating my face. And then, on the main screen, the final message. Landing authorized. Thank you for your patience. Disembarkation beginning. I turned to the window. Here you go. Lights. 2 rows of red and white lights, slowly descending towards the main runway, as if an aircraft were landing. But there was nothing there. Just the lights. I am here. Turbocharged engines. Louder and louder, so loud I felt the vibration in my bones. I pressed my hands against my ears, but the sound came from inside, from everywhere. The lights touched the ground. I heard the screech of brakes, the whistle of engines slowing down, the heavy thud of wheels on the asphalt, and then silence. The screen displayed, "Disembarkation in progress. 224 passengers are leaving the aircraft." I looked out the window, mesmerized by the horror. I didn't see anything physical, but I saw shadows, indistinct silhouettes walking along the runway. Dozens of them, hundreds, moving towards the terminal, slow, patient, as if they had all the time in the world, because they had. I don't know how long I stood there, paralyzed, watching those shadows walk by. They didn't move like normal people. There was something wrong with their rhythm, too slow, too deliberate, as if they were relearning how to walk. The tower lights came back on. An electric hum ran through the equipment. The screens flickered back to life. The door unlocked with a soft click. Run. I stumbled down the stairs, gripping the handrail for support. My heart pounded in my chest. I reached the ground floor and pushed the exit door so hard I hit my shoulder. The parking lot was empty, cold, silent. I got into the car and turned on the ignition, my hands trembling. The wheels screeched on the asphalt as I drove away. I didn't look back. I wasn't able to. I called the next day to resign. I didn't give any explanations. I just said that personal problems prevented me from continuing. The manager was surprised and tried to convince me to take a leave of absence. I refused. I would never go back to that place again. I spent days trying to forget. I avoided news about airplanes. I blocked out any thoughts about that night. I tried to sleep, but I always woke up at 3:47 a.m., all damned night. Sometimes, in the silence of the room, I would hear it, a distant sound. Engines. 2 weeks later, I received an email. Sender, automatic system, Dulles ATC. Subject, shift confirmation. My blood ran cold. I opened the message. Your shift has been scheduled for Sunday at 3:47 a.m. Please report to the main tower. The passengers are awaiting your authorization. I deleted the email immediately. I blocked the sender. The next day, another email. Same sender, same message. I changed my email address. They found the new one. On Friday, I was at the supermarket when a woman approached me. She was about 60 years old, with gray hair and a tired expression. "Excuse me," she said hesitantly. "You worked at Dulles, didn't you?" I froze. "Why?" She looked around nervously. "My son, he worked there. The night shift. 5 years ago." My heart raced, and he started talking about a flight that appeared every night. He said the passengers wanted to disembark, that he was the only one who could see them. My voice came out hoarse. "What happened to him?" She swallowed hard. "He vanished. He just disappeared. The last time I spoke to him, he said..." Tears welled in her eyes. He said he was going to do one last shift, that he needed to let them out. I felt the ground collapse beneath my feet. "We never saw him again," she whispered. "The police said he abandoned everything and ran away. But I know something took him." She placed a hand on my arm. "If you saw that flight, don't come back. Never come back." Before I could answer, she walked away, disappearing among the shelves. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the living room, Lights on, trying to think of anything other than that. At 3:47 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. Silence on the other end. Then, that voice. Distorted. Multiple. Tower. You forgot to release us. We're still waiting. I hung up. I threw the phone on the sofa. He played again. I turned it off again. It rang again. I ripped out the battery. And then, I heard it. Coming from abroad. Distant, but unmistakable. Aircraft engines. I ran to the window. The sky was dark, without stars. But there, on the horizon, I saw lights. 2 rows, red and white, approaching. The next morning, I decided to look for answers. I went to the public library and researched everything about Flight TW492. I found something that made me tremble. An online forum. Air traffic controllers sharing strange experiences. There was an entire thread about the TW492. Dozens of reports. Different airports. Different air traffic controllers. They all described the same thing. The flight that appeared at 3:47 a.m. The passengers who asked to disembark. The system that wouldn't allow deletion. And they all ended the same way. After I authorized the landing, I was never the same again. One of the comments said, "They don't just want to disembark, they want to change places. They want to leave, and someone has to stay." I closed my laptop. Today is Sunday. It's 3:46 a.m. I'm sitting in the dark, staring at the clock. I no longer work at Dulles. I haven't been back there. But they found me. Because 2 days ago, I received a notification in my email. System from FAA. Updated passenger manifest. Flight TW492. I opened the file, and there, at the end of the list, was my name. Seat 33F. I'm looking out the window now, and I see the lights going down, always going down. They said they were tired of waiting. They said they needed someone to take their place. And now I understand. The flight was never canceled, because they never landed, and someone needs to fill those seats. Every night, I wake up at 3:47 a.m., and I can hear the engines, closer and closer. If you work in air traffic control, and one day you see flight TW492 appear on your screen, do not authorize landing, because if you do that, they'll want you to go on board in their place, and you'll never go down there again. I want to know where you're hearing this from. Please mention your city, just in case. But something happened to me, and to this day I can't understand it. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I work alone, from 11 at night until 6 in the morning, cleaning an airport that should have been demolished years ago. It's not the entire airport, just the East Wing, Terminal 3, Sector D, the part that nobody uses anymore. I accepted this job 3 months after my divorce. I needed something to keep me occupied while the rest of the world slept. Something that didn't require conversation. Something that would leave me alone with my thoughts. Or rather, away from them. The shift is simple. I enter through the service door, grab the cleaning cart, and walk through the empty corridors. Worn linoleum flooring, flickering fluorescent lights, air conditioning humming incessantly. The smell is always the same. Cheap cleaning product, mixed with mold, and something metallic that I've never been able to identify. I've been taking the same route for weeks. Bathrooms, corridors, abandoned waiting rooms, boarding gates that haven't seen planes since the 90s. It's monotonous, safe, predictable, until the night I saw the people. It was the 3rd week. I was passing by gate D7, scrubbing the floor with the industrial scrubber, when I noticed figures in the chairs. I stopped. I turned off the scrubber. The silence returned, heavy, suffocating. There were 7 people sitting in the waiting area. They weren't moving. I stood there, holding the machine's cable, trying to process it. Passengers. Impossible. That area was closed off. Locked. I had the only key. I took a few steps forward. The fluorescent light above them flickered every 5 seconds, creating a hypnotic rhythm. Flickering. Darkness. Flickering. Darkness. They remained motionless. A man in a gray suit, briefcase at his feet, a woman in a floral dress, purse on her lap, a teenager with old-fashioned headphones, the kind with thick wires, all seated, all looking straight ahead, not a single blink, not a single visible breath. My first reaction was anger. I thought it was some kind of prank. Maybe mannequins placed there by the maintenance crew. Some stupid test. "Hey!" I shouted. My voice echoed through the empty hallways. Nothing. I moved closer. Now I could see details. Their skin looked real, pale, but real. The man's suit was wrinkled, as if he'd slept in it. The woman's dress had a pattern I recognized, something my mother wore in the 80s. I stretched out my hand. I almost touched the man's shoulder, but I couldn't. Something inside me said, "Don't do that." I stepped back. I went back to the cart. I finished cleaning that night, avoiding looking at that area. When I went out at 6 in the morning, the sunrise outside seemed fake, unreal. I drove home in complete silence. I didn't tell anyone. The following night, they were still there. On the second night, I tried to convince myself they were mannequins. It had to be. But when I went through gate D7 again, something was different. The woman in the floral dress had her purse resting on the floor now. The night before, it had been in her lap. I stopped. I just stared. My heart raced. "You're tired," I thought. "You didn't sleep well. You're confusing things." But I knew what I had seen. During the following nights, I began to observe them more closely. I kept my distance, but I mentally noted everything. The man in the gray suit had a wedding ring on his left hand. The teenager was using a Walkman, not a cell phone, a real Walkman. There was also a child, sitting 3 chairs to the left, holding a faded teddy bear. 7 people. Always 7. Always in the same places, except when they weren't. On the 5th night, the child was 2 seats further to the right. I'm absolutely certain, 2 seats. I started taking photos with my cell phone. The images came out blurry and grainy. The poor lighting in the terminal didn't help, but when I enlarged one of the photos at home during the day, I saw something that chilled me to the bone. None of them cast a shadow. The chairs were there. I had one, but they didn't. I deleted the photos immediately. I don't know why. I just deleted them. A week passed. I barely slept during the day. I'd close my eyes and see those pale faces, that impossible stillness. My ex called once asking if I was okay. I hung up on her. I tried researching Terminal 3. I found very little. Old newspaper articles mentioned that the East Wing had been temporarily closed in 1987 for structural renovations. Nothing specific. Nothing that explained why it was still closed almost 40 years later. There was a comment on an obscure forum about abandoned airports. D7 never took off. They're still waiting. No further explanation was needed. The user never posted again. On the 10th night, I was cleaning the hallway next door when I heard something. A low, muffled sound, like the scraping of a suitcase on wheels. I stopped. The hum of the air conditioner continued. Nothing else. Then I listened again, closer. I slowly made my way back to gate D7. They were still there, motionless. But now I could feel the air was different in that area, colder, denser. My breath formed small clouds of vapor. In the middle of winter, inside an air-conditioned airport, I was seeing my own breath. I approached the man in the suit. I stood less than a meter from him. I looked directly at his face. Pale skin, but without blemishes. Eyes open, fixed on nothing, lips slightly parted. "Who are you?" I whispered. He didn't answer, but the child, 3 seats to the left, turned his head, slowly, millimeter by millimeter, until his eyes met mine. I ran out. I left the stroller. I left everything. I ran through the empty aisles, the sound of my footsteps echoing like gunshots. I bumped my shoulder on the exit door, stumbled in the parking lot, got into the car with my hands trembling so much I could barely put the key in the ignition. I didn't return for 3 days. I called to say I was sick, but the money was running out, and part of me, the stupid, suicidal part, needed to understand, so I came back. When I returned, I was different, more prepared, or at least that's what I told myself. I arrived at 11 o'clock sharp. The service door creaked as usual. The hallway was empty as always. But there was something in the air, an expectation, as if the building itself were waiting for me. I decided I needed answers, real answers. I looked for the supervisor, a man named Earl. He'd worked there since the 80s, maybe even earlier. Gray hair, hands stained with nicotine, eyes always tired. He never talked much. I found him smoking near the garbage containers outside. "Earl," I began, trying to sound casual. "That wing I clean, Terminal 3, Sector D, why was it closed?" He took a while to answer. He took a long drag, threw the cigarette butt on the ground, and stomped on it with unnecessary force. "Reforms," he said, without looking at me. "Reforms that last 40 years. Silence. "Earl, I saw people inside." He finally looked at me. His eyes held something I had never seen before. Fear. Ancient, ingrained fear. And they weren't people. So what were they? He lit another cigarette. His hands trembled slightly. In 1987, there was a Flight 915, bound for Denver. It was delayed. It kept being delayed. Storm, technical problems, I don't know. The passengers waited at gate D7 for hours, then for days. Days? The airline collapsed. Sudden bankruptcy. Nobody knew what to do with those passengers. They simply stayed, waiting for a flight that would never take off. My mouth was dry. And then one day they stopped moving. All at once, they stopped blinking, breathing, talking, but they remained seated. When security tried to remove them, well, they couldn't. It was as if they were glued to the chairs, fused to them. Earl took another drag. They sealed off the area. Officially, it was due to structural contamination. But the truth is, nobody knows what the hell happened, and nobody wants to find out. He threw away the half-eaten cigarette. If I were you, I'd do the cleaning somewhere else. There are other hallways, other departments. But I couldn't. I just couldn't manage it. That night, I returned to gate D7. They were there, all 7 of them. But now I knew what they were, or what they had been. I stood there at the entrance to the waiting area. The light was flashing, flashing, flashing. "Why are you still here?" I asked aloud. The silence was absolute. Even the air conditioning seemed to have stopped. Then I heard it, a metallic, distorted sound coming from the speakers above. "Flight 9142, Denver, boarding, soon." The announcement repeated itself, slower each time. The words dragged on, distorted, like a cassette tape playing at the wrong speed. And they all turned their heads in my direction at the same time. 7 pairs of eyes, empty, hungry. The woman in the floral dress stood up. Her joints cracked like dry branches. She took a step forward, then another. The bag fell to the floor with a dull thud. I received it. The man in the suit also stood up. Then the teenager, then the child. One by one, everyone stand up, looking at me. Before we continue, if you've ever felt like something was watching you in the dark, subscribe, You'll understand why by the end. Run. I didn't think. I just ran. My feet pounded on the linoleum with a deafening echo. Behind me, I heard the sound. Shuffling footsteps. Slow, but steady. As if they had all the time in the world. I turned left in the hallway, then right. But something was wrong. The hallways seemed longer. The signs on the gates were blurry, illegible. The lights were flashing frantically now, strobe-like, nauseating. I looked back. They were closer, much closer than they should be. The woman in the floral dress was only 3 meters away. Her face remained expressionless, but her mouth moved, lips forming silent words, repeated, obsessive. I tried the nearest exit door. Locked. I tried another. Locked. No, 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 I murmured, pulling at the doorknob in despair. The air was icy now. My breath came out in thick clouds. The lights above me began to go out, one by one, as if something were moving across the ceiling, devouring the light. I turned around. They formed a semicircle around me. The man in the suit took another step. He stretched out his hand toward me. His fingers were too long. The joints were bent at impossible angles. "Please," I whispered. "I just work here. I didn't do anything." The child with the teddy bear stepped forward. He stopped right in front of me. He tilted his head to the side, like a dog trying to understand a strange sound. And then he spoke. Her voice was small, muffled, as if it came from very far away. "You are waiting too." "No, I'm not. Everyone expects something. I'm not expecting anything." The scream came out of me with a force I didn't know I had. I pushed the child, or tried to. My hand pierced her body like smoke, and then the sound, the announcement returned, louder, more distorted, reverberating through the walls, the floor, and my bones. Immediate boarding. Gate D7, last call. The lights exploded. Glass rained down. Total darkness. I stumbled, fell, crawled. My hands found something, a door, an opening, light filtering through a crack. I threw myself through it, and I fell in the parking lot. Sunrise, fresh air, cars passing on the highway in the distance. I lay on the asphalt for several minutes, just breathing, just existing. A week passed, then 2. I thought about never going back, looking for another job, moving to another city, forgetting about it. But money was tight again, and part of me, that stupid, suicidal part, knew it wasn't over. So I came back. I went back to Terminal 3. I went back to Sector D. I went back to Gate D7. They're still there, sitting, waiting. But now, before I start cleaning, I sit for a few minutes, just a few minutes, in the chairs next to them. I don't know why. I just sit. And every night I stay a little longer. 5 minutes, 10, 15. Yesterday, I realized something. My suitcase was at my feet. I didn't bring any luggage. And today, when I looked in the mirror before leaving home, there was something wrong with my reflection. He blinked less than he should have. Something happened to me, and to this day I can't understand it. I've worked at an international airport for 7 years, the night shift. It's always been like this: silence, cold lights, empty corridors. It's the kind of job you choose when you want to disappear for a while, when you don't want to deal with people anymore, when you prefer the constant hum of fluorescent lights to someone asking you how you are. That night, it was 2:47 a.m. Denver International Airport was dead. Only 3 employees were covering the entire international wing. Me, Denise in security, and Marcus cleaning the bathrooms at the other end of the terminal. The fog outside was dense, the kind that swallows the runway lights and makes everything seem suspended in time. I was finishing my reheated coffee when the radio started crackling. Static, then silence, then a voice, masculine, firm, but strange, as if it were being transmitted from very far away. Ground operations. Please proceed to open gate G7. International disembarkation scheduled for 0300 hours. I frowned. I looked at the computer screen in front of me. No flights scheduled. No landings. The last international arrival had been at 11:15 p.m., a routine flight from London. I pressed the radio button. This is ground operations. There is nothing in the system about gate G7. Repeat the instruction. Static. Then, the voice again. Gate G7. Disembark in 13 minutes. I felt something strange. It wasn't fear. Not yet. It was discomfort. Like when you wake up in the middle of the night and feel that something is wrong, but you don't know what. I opened the terminal map on the computer. I walked through each wing, each gate. G1, G2, G3, G4, G5, G6. Nothing. There was no G7. I called Denise. Denise, do you know of any G7 gates in that wing? She took a while to answer. I heard the creaking of her chair in the distance. G7? Dude, that doesn't even exist. Why? I received an order over the radio. They said to open gate G7. Silence. Are you okay? There must have been some kind of frequency error. Go back to sleep. She hung up. I kept staring at the radio. It was silent now, but I had heard it. I had heard it clearly. I got up. I grabbed the flashlight. I don't know why. Maybe because some part of me already knew I was going to need it. That's when I heard distant, very distant, but unmistakable. The sound of turbines shutting down. That deep, prolonged groan that an airplane engine makes when it finally stops. I knew that sound. I'd heard it thousands of times. But when I looked out the window, the runway was empty, completely empty. I grabbed my jacket and left the office. The hallway was freezing, colder than it should have been. I could see my breath forming white clouds in the air, and it didn't make sense. The air conditioning always kept everything too warm, never this cold. I headed towards Ward G. My footsteps echoed against the linoleum floor. The fluorescent lights flickered erratically. Some were off. Others had that irritating buzzing sound that seems to vibrate inside your head. I went through gate G6, empty chairs, screen off. Everything normal. But after him, there was something else. A door. A gray metal door, unmarked, without a number. I swore I'd never seen anything like it before. But at the same time, it felt like it had always been there, as if my brain had simply chosen to ignore it until now. The sign next to it read G7, worn out lettering, old, as if it had been painted decades ago. My hand trembled as I picked up the keychain. I didn't know which key to use, but one of them, one I'd never noticed before, fit perfectly. The door slid open with a metallic groan. On the other side, a corridor, narrow, concrete walls, dim lighting. The smell, God, the smell, old kerosene, mold, and something else, something organic, like burnt hair. I wanted to go back. Every instinct in my body screamed for me to go back, but I kept walking. The corridor led to a boarding bridge, one of those telescopic walkways that connect the terminal to the plane. It was extended, fully extended. The glass door at the end swayed slightly, open, but there was no plane. I looked out the side window. The runway outside was shrouded in fog, dense fog, impossible to see beyond 3 meters. But I knew there was nothing there. And then, I heard it again. The engines, now closer, that low, steady roar, as if a gigantic plane were parked right there. Invisible, waiting, The air grew heavy, a strange pressure, as if something enormous had just materialized around me without me being able to see it. I took a step back. The boarding bridge began to move. Alone. The hydraulic sound of the mechanism filled the corridor. The walkway began to retract slowly, as if it had just released passengers. But I didn't see anyone. I didn't see it, but I felt it. A current of cold air passed by me, quickly, followed by another. And another. As if dozens of people were walking beside me, passing by me, whispering without words. I couldn't breathe properly. My chest was tight. My hands were freezing. I backed up to the door. I ran back down the hall. I locked everything behind me. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear my pulse in my ears. I went back to the office. I turned off the radio. I sat down. I took a deep breath. Tiredness. It can only be tiredness, insomnia, stress. I repeated that in my head, many times. But something was pulling me back. A feeling, like I needed to check it out, like something was waiting for me. And that's when I heard the sound, from the baggage carousel. She had started to move. The baggage carousel never works on its own, never. Someone has to manually activate it in the system, but I was alone, and it was moving. I stood up slowly. My chair creaked. I walked to the office door and looked down the hallway that led to the arrivals area. The lights were on, all of them, but I don't remember turning them on. I went down the stairs. Each step seemed heavier than the last. The sound of the treadmill echoed, that continuous, metallic, mesmerizing mechanical noise. When I arrived at the arrivals hall, the cold was unbearable, and then I saw them. People, standing in line, silent, staring at the conveyor belt, waiting for their luggage. There were 7, maybe 8. I couldn't count properly because my vision was blurry. My whole body was trembling. They were wearing strange clothes, not exactly old-fashioned, but out of place. A man in a gray suit with wide lapels. A woman in a navy blue dress, maybe from the 80s. A boy in a faded denim jacket and dirty white Converse sneakers. But it wasn't the clothes. It was their skin. Pale. Not pale like someone who is ill. Pale like wax, like wet paper. Colorless. Lifeless. And they didn't blink. None of them blinked. I tried to speak. My voice came out hoarse and weak. "Excuse me. You need to go through immigration first." None of them turned around. The conveyor belt kept turning. Empty. No luggage. I took a few more steps. My body moved automatically. I needed to understand. I needed to prove to myself that this was real. That's when one of them turned around. A man, in his 50s, gray hair, tired face. He was holding something in his hand, a passport. He handed it to me, without saying anything, just staring at me. I picked up the passport with trembling hands. Shelter. The photo was of him, younger, but it was him, the name, Robert Mitchell, date of birth, March 14th, 1964. But where the expiration date should have been, it was blank, just a faded stamp, illegible. I looked at him. "Mr. Mitchell, where are you coming from?" He didn't answer immediately. He just stared at me. His eyes were empty, as if he were looking right through me. And then he spoke. Her voice was low, dry, as if it hadn't been used in a long time. "How long have I been dead?" My blood froze. I took a step back. The passport fell from my hand. Another passenger approached. A woman, blonde, navy blue dress. She was also holding a passport. I don't remember boarding. Another one. The guy in the denim jacket. Where are the others? My legs gave way. I stumbled. I fell, sitting down on the cold floor. They began to approach, all of them. Silently, shuffled steps, holding passports, faded photos. names I couldn't quite read. I picked up my cell phone. I tried calling Denise, anyone. No signal. I looked up. They were all around me now, in a circle, looking down at me. And then I saw, in the reflection of the window behind them, there were more passengers, dozens, hundreds. Everyone stopped, waiting. I got up. I don't know how. My legs were numb. My whole body was trembling. But I forced myself to stand. They didn't move. They just kept staring at me. Those empty eyes. No emotion. No life. I started walking backward, slowly, without taking my eyes off them. I need to call someone. I need to check the system. You'll have to wait. My voice sounded pathetic, weak, as if I were trying to convince myself that I still had some control. I turned my back and started running. I climbed the stairs. My feet banged against the metal steps. The echo was deafening. I reached the hallway. The lights were flickering faster now. On, off, on, off. I picked up the radio. I pressed the button so hard that my fingers hurt. Denise! Marcus! Someone answer me! Static. Static only. Please, there are people here. There are... The voice on the radio cut me off. The same voice as before. Calm. Distant. Gate G7. Disembarkation complete. I dropped the radio. It fell to the floor and the battery popped out. I ran to the window. I looked at the track. The fog had thickened. But now I could see something. A shadow. Enormous. Dark. The silhouette of an airplane. But I was wrong. Everything was wrong. The wings were too long. The fuselage was too narrow. It was like an old plane, from another era. And then he started to move, gliding silently down the track. No engine sounds, no lights, just a dark shape fading into the mist. I turned around, and I almost screamed. They were behind me, the passengers, all of them, going up the stairs, walking down the aisle, in a line, silent. I backed up until I hit the wall. I had nowhere to go. The man in the gray suit, Robert Mitchell, stopped in front of me. He tilted his head, studying my face. Are you waiting too? No, I work here. He reached out his hand, slowly, and touched my shoulder. His touch was icy, colder than ice. It burned. We all thought we worked here. I pushed his hand away and ran. I ran blindly. I passed the passengers. Their bodies were solid, but soft, as if they were made of something that wasn't flesh. I reached the office door. I locked it from the inside. I leaned a chair against it. I breathed. I gasped. Silence returned. Absolute. I looked around. Everything was normal. My coffee was still on the table. The computer was on. The clock read 3:42 a.m. Only 18 minutes had passed. I was sweating. My hands were shaking. But I was alone. I sat down. I closed my eyes. I counted to 10. I took a deep breath. Hallucination, extreme exhaustion, breakdown, whatever it was. It wasn't real. I opened my eyes, and I saw my reflection in the dark glass of the window. He was pale. Very pale. I raised my hand. I touched my face. It was freezing. I looked down, at my name tag. The photo was faded. The name, illegible. My heart raced. I got up. I ran to the window. I looked down at the arrival area below. The baggage carousel was stopped, but someone was there, standing, alone, looking up, at myself. It was me. I was looking at myself. I screamed. I stepped back. I banged my fist on the table, and then everything went dark. I woke up in the same office. My face was pressed against the desk. The computer light was flickering. I looked at the clock, 5:47 a.m. The shift was ending. Marcus walked down the hallway. He knocked on the door. Hey man, are you going to sleep there all day? I stood up, dazed, confused. "Marcus, did you see anything strange last night?" He frowned. "Strange? Like what?" "People. Passengers. At gate G7. He laughed. "G7? Dude, that doesn't even exist. Go home. You're finished." He left. I stood there, staring at the computer screen. I opened the transaction history for the night. No landings, no flights, nothing. I took a deep breath. I grabbed my things. I left. But as I was leaving, the radio in my pocket crackled. Static, and then the voice. Firm, calm, distant. "Gate G7, prepare for the next arrival." I looked back. The grey door was there. It always has been. Tell us in the comments if you think this was real, or something worse. Something happened to me, and to this day I can't understand it. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I worked for 6 years as a security supervisor at Denver International Airport. The night shift, from 10 at night to 6 in the morning. I knew every corridor, every camera, every sound of that place when the world sleeps. Most people have never seen an empty airport. It's strange, scary even. Not because of what's there, but because of what should be there and isn't. No voices, no hurry, just the constant hum of fluorescent lights and the echo of my own footsteps on the waxed floor. That night, or early morning, I don't know. It was especially quiet. No delayed flights, no noisy cleaning crews, just me, 2 security guards in the south terminal, and a cashier dozing near the airline counter. I was in the monitoring room, watching the cameras as usual. 16 screens flashing images of empty corridors, stopped conveyor belts, silent boarding gates, everything normal, everything dead, until I saw them. I didn't hear footsteps, I didn't hear voices. They simply appeared, a group of 7 people, walking in a line, slowly, crossing the main corridor towards security. I blinked. I looked again. They were still there. I picked up the radio. "Mike, is anyone arriving at checkpoint 3? Silence. "Mike!" His voice came out slurred and sleepy. "No. It's all empty here, boss." But I was watching. 7 people. Dark clothes, handbags, walking without haste, as if they had all the time in the world. I stood up. I felt a chill run down my spine. It wasn't the air conditioning. It was something else. I ran down to the checkpoint. When I arrived, Mike was leaning against the counter, fiddling with his phone. He didn't even look up. "Oh, where are the passengers?" I asked, breathless. He frowned. "What passengers?" I pointed to the hallway. Empty, completely empty. I saw it on the cameras. 7 people. Here. Now. Mike gave that smile that says he thinks you've gone crazy. "Dude, nobody came by." I ran back to the monitoring room. I rewound the cameras. I went through each frame. Nothing. Empty hallway. It's always been empty. But I had seen it. I swear I had seen it. I sat in the chair, breathing heavily, my hands sweating. Maybe it was exhaustion. 6 years of late nights take their toll. Maybe I needed a vacation or therapy. I looked at the digital clock on the wall, 3:16 in the morning. I took a deep breath. I closed my eyes for a second. When I opened it, they were there again, on camera, walking through the security gate, without triggering the metal detector, without anyone stopping them, walking straight to gate E7. And then all the clocks in the airport stopped. 3:17. Silence came first. It wasn't an absence of sound. It was something denser, more wrong. As if the air had thickened and every noise had been sucked out of the world. The buzzing of the lights stopped. The automated announcements stopped. Even the sound of the air conditioning, that constant whisper you don't even notice until it fades away, disappeared. I was staring intently at the cameras. The 7 passengers continued walking. But now I realized they weren't moving like normal people. Their steps were perfectly synchronized, exactly the same rhythm, as if they were one body divided into 7 parts. I tried to stand up. My body felt heavy, not like tiredness. It was as if gravity had increased. Every movement required triple the effort. I picked up the radio with a trembling hand. "Mike, are you seeing this?" Nothing. "Mike," static. Just hoarse, distant static. I looked at my wristwatch, stopped. 3:17. The digital clock on the wall. Stopped. 3:17. The computer screen that always showed the date and time in the lower corner. Frozen. 3:17. My heart raced. Cold sweat trickled down my back. I forced myself out of the room. The hallway felt different. The lights flickered slowly, very slowly, as if moving through syrup. My footsteps echoed strangely, an echo that took too long to return. I went down to the checkpoint. Mike was there, standing still, completely motionless. "Mike!" He didn't answer. He didn't blink. He was frozen in mid-movement, his hand still suspended over his phone, his eyes fixed on the screen, like a statue. I shook his shoulder. Nothing. It was like touching cold meat. Was he breathing? I couldn't tell. A primal dread gripped me. I turned toward the main hallway. They were there, the 7 passengers, standing still, looking directly at me. They had no faces. They weren't shadows. They weren't blurs. They were people, with clothes, with human forms, but where there should have been a face, there was only emptiness, as if someone had erased that part of reality. I couldn't breathe properly. Air was going in, but it wasn't filling my lungs. They started walking again, toward gate E7. I followed them. I don't know why. Maybe curiosity, maybe pure terror. Maybe because some part of me knew that if I didn't go, I'd never know what was happening. Each step I took felt like it was being traversed in molasses. Time was broken. I could feel it. It wasn't standing still. It was distorted, stretched, chewed. They arrived at the gate. The boarding door was closed. There was no plane. There was nothing but the dark windows and the emptiness of the runway outside. But they turned around, all at the same time, and they looked at me. No faces, no eyes, but I felt it. I felt the weight of that gaze, as if every cell in my body was being observed, catalogued, measured. My vision began to darken at the edges. My chest ached. I fell to my knees. And then, the buzzing returned. The lights flickered brightly. The air conditioning blew back to life. Time went on. I was on the floor, panting, sweating, trembling. I looked at the nearest digital clock, 3:18. 1 minute. It had lasted 1 minute. But I knew it had been much, much more. I got up from the floor, my legs trembling. My breath came in short, desperate bursts. I ran my hand over my face and felt something strange. My skin, different, rougher. I walked to the nearest bathroom. I pushed the door open forcefully. The automatic lights flickered on with a high-pitched buzz that made me shudder. I looked in the mirror, and my heart stopped. That wasn't my face. It was, but it wasn't. I had wrinkles. Deep wrinkles around my eyes and mouth, gray hairs at my temples. The skin on my neck was sagging and drooping. My hands, I raised my hands and turned them over in the light, were covered in age spots, bulging veins, and skin as thin as paper. I was 34 years old. Now she looked like she was 60. No. I gripped the sink, my legs almost giving way. My mind was spinning, trying to find logic, stress, hallucination, some kind of nervous breakdown, but I could feel it, every wrinkle, every weaker muscle, every joint aching in a way it hadn't before. I staggered out of the bathroom. I needed answers. I needed someone to confirm that I wasn't going crazy. I found Mike at the checkpoint. He was fine. Awake now, going through papers. Mike. My voice came out hoarse. Older. Look at me. Look at me and tell me what you see. He looked up, indifferent. What is it, boss? How do I look? Do you see anything different about me? He frowned. You're sweating like crazy. Did you feel unwell? Look at me, I yelled. I've aged. Look at my hair, my hands. Mike took a step back, startled. Dude, are you okay? Do you want me to call someone? He wasn't seeing it. Or he was seeing it and pretending not to. Or I was losing my sanity completely. I ran back to the monitoring room. I needed the cameras. I needed proof. I sat in the chair and rewound the last few minutes. I watched the recording from 3:17. I was there, alone, walking down the hallways, falling to my knees at gate E7, alone, no passengers, no figures, nothing. But then I saw me. In the recording, when I fell to my knees, I was young, dark hair, no wrinkles, and when I stood up, seconds later, I was old. The camera captured it, the transformation, frame by frame. As if decades had passed through me in seconds. I felt bile rising in my throat. I looked at the live monitor. Gate E7. They were still there. The 7 passengers, standing in the departure lounge, motionless, looking directly at the camera. At me. No faces. No eyes. But looking. I got up trembling and went there. I don't know why. It was suicide. It was madness. But I needed to understand. I arrived at the gate. The room was empty. Empty. But I could feel it. The weight. The presence. As if there were 7 invisible bodies occupying the space, sucking in the air, bending reality around them. I heard a sound. Low. Distant. Like collective breathing. Synchronized. And then a voice. Not in my ears. In my head. You saw. I fell to my knees again. Tears streamed down my aged face. Please, what do you want from me? Silence. And then, once again, you saw. 5 weeks have passed since that night. 5 weeks, and I still can't sleep properly. I wake up sweating, with my heart racing, feeling the weight of those faceless stares on me. They took me off work. They said I had an episode, that I needed help. The doctor looked at me with pity and prescribed antipsychotics. My ex-wife called years later and asked if I was using drugs. Nobody believes it. But I have proof. I look in the mirror every day. A 60-year-old man stares back at me. My body aches in ways it didn't before. My back, my knees. I wake up with aches and pains that take an hour to go away. The doctors can't explain it. They did tests. My DNA is mine. But my body, aged. Accelerated aging, they said. Extremely rare. Maybe a genetic syndrome. A genetic syndrome that appears overnight. Of course. I tried to move on. I got a job in a warehouse. Day shift. Far from airports. Far from anywhere empty at night. But I can't stop thinking about it. I started researching. The internet. Public archives. Old airport records. And then I found it. 32 years ago. 1993. An overnight flight to Seattle. Flight 217. Scheduled to depart at 3:20 a.m. from gate E7. 7 passengers checked in. The flight was canceled at the last minute. Technical problem. But the records show something strange. The passengers never left the airport. They didn't check in for other flights. They didn't take taxis. They didn't appear on exit cameras. They simply disappeared. The families filed lawsuits. The investigation lasted for months. Nothing. Filed away as unexplained missing persons. 7 people. Gate E7. 3:17 a.m. I printed the records. I looked at the old photos of the passengers. Ordinary faces, normal people, an elderly couple, a businesswoman, 2 university students, a man alone with a backpack, a young girl with headphones. 7 lives, frozen in time, or prey, repeating, waiting. At night, I dream of them, walking in a line, going through the gate, again and again and again. 32 years trapped in the same minute, and I saw them. I entered their circle, even if only for a second, and I paid the price. Last night, I received a strange email. No sender, just one line. Gate E7, 317. Finish what you started. I deleted it. I blocked it. But the email came back, again and again. I know what that means. They want me to go back. Or maybe I need to go back. Maybe it's the only way to reverse this, to understand, to escape this nightmare. Today I took my car. I drove to the airport. I parked far away, just watching the illuminated building against the dark sky. I stayed there for 2 hours, just watching. And then I went in. Nobody stopped me. I went through security with my old badge, which for some reason still works. I walked through the corridors I know by heart. It was 2:47 in the morning. I arrived at gate E7. The room was empty, silent, chairs lined up, dark windows revealing the sleeping runway. I sat and waited. 3:10, 3:15. My phone beeped. I looked at the screen. Message from an unknown number. You saw. Now you belong. 3:16. The hum of the lights began to change, getting quieter, denser. I felt the air thicken, and then they showed up, the 7 of them, walking in a line, entering the boarding area, stopping in front of me. No faces, but this time, I understood. They didn't want to hurt me. They wanted company. 32 years trapped alone in an impossible loop. And finally, someone saw them. The clock on the wall blinked, 3:17, and I'm not afraid anymore. Because now, I know I'll never get out of here. If you listen to the end, you're already one of us. Subscribe so you're not alone when the next whisper comes.